Come on. Love my girl. She looking good. Come on. One more. 5 to 1, baby. 1 in 5. No one here gets out alive now. You get yours, baby. I'll get mine. Gonna make it, baby, if we try. The old get old and the young get stronger. May take a week and it may take longer. They got the guns, but we got the numbers. Gonna win, yeah, we're taking over. Come on!
Hello, and welcome to another episode of News from the Gelding. So, today's intro was recommended to me by Adam, my brother from another mother. He recommended The Doors, 5 to 1, released in 1968, and it's quite a fitting song to start things off because I'm talking about motivation today. For all of you aspiring writers or self-published writers or anyone really who wants to motivate themselves to writing. Anyway, before I get down to business, there's timestamps down below, so you can zoom across to the pertinent information if you wish, but I normally do a bit of rambling now, so yeah, I'm going to do that. Right, I'm going to introduce a new thing today, and it's the Geld'o'meter. So if I just bring that in now, up you come. Right, so as I said last week, I'm going to try and shift 100 books by the time my second book comes out. Now, it's a tall order considering how few I've sold in a whole year. So this is a gauge to show how many I'm selling. Unfortunately, in the past week, despite paying for sponsored ads and some other targeted thingamajogs, no one's bought any. Although someone has read 5 pages, so yes, great. That's better than nothing. Perhaps got 5 pages in and thought, fuck that. But anyway, so I thought, just to get the old Geld'o'meter working, let's put in the number of books I've sold in the entire year. Now, brace yourselves. Let's do it. Oh yeah. Yep, that's 31 books. Not very good. But the chances of me getting to that 100 within the next month are very slim based on those numbers. So I'm going to add those 31 to the count. So I need to sell, what is it, 61? Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so there we are. There's the challenge. If you're watching this and you want to get that meter going, you know what to do. It's reasonably priced, and if you're a fan of fantasy, yeah, give it a go. Yeah, so I mean, to anyone that is new to this channel, the production values of this channel are pretty low, as you can probably see. All of the assets, the intro I made, the Geld'o'meter, it's all been made from, well, I made the Geld'o'meter myself, but there's free assets available online, video clips and whatnot. Even the sound effects of the Geld'o'meter, as high quality as they sound, they were produced by me. Yeah. I looked into nice sound effects and I was going to rip some off But I thought it's not fair. People have made these sound effects to sell them, and that's all they do. They're interested in creating sound effects, and it would be nice to nick them. So yeah, there we are. If you want sound effects, I'm your man. Right. In terms of the editing process of the sequel, I've done everything now up until the very final chapter, which I still haven't written. This is the only chapter really that I know what's going to happen pretty much. Not word for word, but I know how it ends. So I've left that to the end just in case there were anything else that was thrown up in the preceding chapters that would inform it. So I'm ready to write that now. I'm going to do that next week, and then it will be ready for the very final proofread. If you saw last week's episode, you know how many times I edit things, so that will be the final edit. So I'm on course to get this out for the end of August. The only other two things I've got to do is I've got to draw a new map, because I love fantasy maps and I need a new one for this new land that's being explored, so I've got to draw that. The last one I did took me 90 hours, but I'm not going to do such a long-winded process this time, and hopefully I'll do it within a few days. That's the plan, just using pen and ink, the old-fashioned way. And also I've got to paint a front cover for the new book. This, by the way, is just a painting I've been working on for ages. Well, hardly doing it, just sits there, and it's nothing to do with the book. But there we are. The only other piece of news I have is my dear friend Dan. I missed his damned birthday back in June. I've got a memory like a sieve. Here he is, splendidly handsome hunk of a fellow. I rely on Facebook normally to give me notifications of people's birthdays because I can't even remember my own family's. So sorry, Dan. Want to see you soon. As soon as all this nonsense is sorted out, we shall do just that. Have a bit of retro gaming and what have you. Right. Okay, that's all that out the way. Let's get down to business. Right. So, as ever, you can take my advice as you wish. I've sold, as I've just said, hardly any books at all, so I'm not successful by any means, but I am qualified, I think, to talk to you about motivation. For someone, especially who isn't having success, motivating oneself to continue writing can be quite a challenge. So you need to really, at the very beginning of everything, you've got to be passionate for what you're doing. If what you're writing doesn't interest you, it's not for you, or the project itself isn't for you. You need to have enough passion for what you're doing to sustain you over a very long period of time. To the extent that you don't have this end goal in sight, So if you're a traditionally published author, you may have a book deal of some kind, or you may have a following if you're popular in self-publishing or traditionally published writing, and you've got an audience, waiting with bated breath for your next work. That's motivation, to get it out there for them. But when you've got no one there, or maybe just a few people like me or my close friends and family, it becomes slightly more tricky to get these things nailed down. But love of your craft and of your stories is not enough. You need a fair measure of perseverance through difficulties you may have with it. So the first part, the first draft is often the most enjoyable phase, but you can have some very big problems in these early stages. Whether you write, as I do, in a kind of explorative manner, or whether you plan the whole thing from beginning to end, you can find yourself in the very middle with a very big mistake or a problem that you didn't envisage occurring. Now, this can be a really big it can put you in a really dark place, because everything that you've invested all these hundreds of hours in can suddenly be on the brink of destruction. People call it writer's block as well. That's another. I don't believe in writer's block, and I've never suffered from that particular ailment, because I don't really think it exists. If you're invested in your work enough, there's always a way around it. But there's the problem. So you get a big problem, don't keep beating yourself up for not getting through it. In those situations, it's best to put it away for a time. It may be a matter of days or a matter of weeks, and come back to it fresh. That's always a good thing. It's always good to come back to it with a fresh perspective. In the shorter term, the smaller problems can be resolved by doing other things. Now, procrastination has a very bad name, but I think a lot of creative people, if not all creative people, procrastinate. It's looked on in a negative way, but I think it's a very positive thing, because when you're dealing with intangibles, when you're spending hours and hours on writing something that amounts to just words on a page, you need something physical to achieve, I think, in the real world sometimes, to make you feel as though you're progressing, even if you're not doing it so much in your work. So doing the dishes, or tidying a room, or whatever, it can give you a boost of some sort, because even if you don't achieve anything in your writing for part of the day, at least in the back of your mind you think you're already doing something, you've already achieved something, even if it isn't pertinent to what you're doing. But for me, when I do something like that, I come back feeling like whatever I achieve writing now, it's a bonus. I've already done something that's furthered my life, so to speak, and this is the cherry on the top, so to speak. Another good thing is if you're struggling a bit, go for a walk. It's similar to procrastination in a certain way, but it allows your body to take over and your mind can kind of go elsewhere. Brilliant time to be thinking is when you're walking. Ideas start sifting around your head and your subconscious starts taking over, and you can get ideas from doing that you wouldn't otherwise get just trying to beat it out of your head at your desk. Absolutely love walking, although I've got a bad knee, so I don't walk so much anymore because it's too painful. Brilliant. The worst thing you can possibly do is just try to bash your way through a problem, or persevere with a story that it just isn't working. Sometimes you have to know when to pull the plug, because if you're not enjoying the process, your reader won't be. It just stands to reason. I've had periods where I've written parts of my book, and I've had to struggle through it, to make something work. It took me ages, and I felt good for finishing it, that particular section, but then when I came back to read it, I thought, this is just boring. So it definitely translates. If you're not enjoying the process, then your reader will not. It just won't. Okay, so the next thing is distractions. Now, the last thing you need when you've got this fragile idea or a story taking shape within you, the last thing you need is distractions. In the mornings, when I start working on my book, I use a computer that's not connected to the internet. I don't want the temptation to check YouTube or check whatever, Facebook, to see if shitall's happened. Never has. And then you end up an hour later, you've got no work done, and you've just looked at a load of pointless shit. So if you can, use a separate computer. That's a really good thing. I've just got a really old, it's almost 10 years old now. It's as slow as hell, but it runs Word, and that's all I need. A really old version of Word. If you can't do that, just disconnect the internet. Just remove the temptation for the period of time that you're working. I know people say they need the internet to look up things, research things, but do that beforehand. Do it separately, write it down, have it in front of you, and work that way. I personally couldn't imagine writing with the internet on the same computer, but then I'm a weak soul and I'll very easily be led elsewhere. By the same token, your phone is another obvious distraction. Sling that out the fucking window. You do not need the phone with you whilst you're writing. You can be in a lovely flow and then suddenly something goes on your phone, you look it up, all of a sudden you're on the fucking internet again. So yeah, don't do that, okay? That's really important. The next thing is set yourself goals. So if you don't have a publisher waiting with bated breath for your next manuscript, you need to set your own goals. So set a week to do a particular chapter, or by the end of the month finish 3 chapters. Word counts, get certain word counts that you have to achieve by a certain time, and you'll feel all the better for hitting those milestones. So this book release that I'm hoping for the end of August, for example, it's a totally arbitrary date that I've set. I mean, it doesn't mean anything at all. I want it to be roughly 1 year after the last one, but I mean, the main thing is it's to get me to do the damn thing. So these other things, the painting, the illustration I need to do, and to the final chapter I need to write, and the very last part of the editing. I mean, for that to be done within the space of a month, I need to be very, very focused, and nothing focuses you better than a deadline, even a self-imposed one. The other good thing to do is to join a writing group. I mean, I can't speak from experience here because I haven't done it myself, but I know my brother Mark has, and he's found that very valuable. The only thing I would say is that my writing group is my brother Mark. So up until fairly recently, we're doing very regular Skype sessions once a week, and we are taking turns talking about our work. Read a chapter together, point out problems with it, and generally discuss it. I find those sessions very, very valuable indeed, because not only is it a sounding board for your ideas and another way of recognizing problems that you may not have seen in your work, it's another, I find myself trying even harder in the week leading up to one of our sessions to get my writing better. Not saying I want to impress him, but I want him to read something exciting or something worth reading. So it gives me a reason to try a bit harder. And I think the same with him. I think he feels the same way. When you know someone else is going to be reading it and you're right there in front of them, looking them in the eyeball, it gives you that extra bit of oomph to do your best work. So find someone like-minded. Doesn't necessarily need to be a writer of the same genre. I suppose that helps though, if you want to weed out the little problems that there might be, especially within fantasy. I mean, there's lots of things that can go wrong. And just, form a nice relationship and share the process. Make sure it's not too one-sided. Me and my brother, we just alternate every other week until this fucking coronavirus pissed us off. I'm going to stop there, but what I might do is next week talk a bit about motivation and time management, specifically when you're working full-time and writing on the side. So that's something I'm also quite familiar with. But it ties in with motivation, because if you don't have much time in the day, then motivating yourself to write can be a right pain in the ass. But yeah, I'll save that for next week because I've already been prattling on long enough. I hope this has helped one of you, maybe, or two of you, I don't know. Let me know what your particular work ethics are and how you manage to stay motivated. I mean, I've been writing this book now almost every day, believe it or not, for the past 5 or 6 years. I mean, it's quite crazy when I think about it, but all of my main mental capacity goes into this book. I think about it all the time, but I'm also quite slow at writing, so although my process is quite slow, so it's taken me a long time. But I mean, I've done this last book in just over a year, so that's not bad. But sustaining that throughout those 5 or 6 years has been guided by my passion for it. I absolutely love it, and I love the escapism of it in its purest form. It came as something of a drawback, a disappointment when it didn't sell very well. I think we all have these ideas that the book will just stick it on there, he'll stick it on Amazon and it will start flying off the virtual shelves. But obviously that just doesn't happen to most people. I know it does to some, for some mysterious fucking reason. But you know, it's just one of those things. So when that happened, I was quite down for about a week, and then I thought to myself, but why are you doing it anyway? You're not doing it to make money. I mean, you want people to read it, obviously, but I wasn't under the illusion that I could just quit my job. But it reminded me of why I was doing it in the first place, which is because I loved escaping into this world I was creating. I just loved the process of writing the damn thing. So that's carried me through this longer period. I've heard other self-published authors talking about, they're really gutted that their work's not selling, or a particular book isn't selling well when they've had others that have sold really well, and it's like after a week they're lamenting the fact that I'm going to pull this book off and I'm going to take it off, whatever. But it's just bloody crazy. I mean, if you're doing it just to make money or for fame, I just don't agree with it. I think whatever you're creating is going to be piss poor. I'm pretty sure of it. If you're motivated by that primarily, then yeah, fuck it, I wouldn't read it. Anyway, shit, I'm getting a bit it's because it's hot in here. Crikey, I'm getting a bit cranky. Right, let's get a bit hot. Okay, right, let's leave it there. If you've watched this far, thank you very much indeed. If you want to see more of these, subscribe if you like. Leave a like if you do that as well, I don't mind. And yeah, we'll leave it there. Yeah, cheerio.